Welcome back to Steel City Drones. Today we are going to use the new Matrice 4 Enterprise to map the airport here at Pittsburgh International. So we're going to actually map the new Landside Terminal that they're building, along with the entire new area of the construction area. And now we're going to go ahead and show you the steps that we used to create a high quality orthomosaic. So to start off with, let's talk a little bit about the background of this project. We have an approved airspace authorization with the FAA. We're also coordinating everything with Pittsburgh International Safety Team, who was present with us as well. And we also coordinated this on the weekend when there were no construction workers on site, which made things a lot more easier to manage. Now for this project, we're only going to go ahead and create the orthomosaic. We simply just did not have enough time because we were doing other projects while we were at the airport to be able to lay down aerial targets and control points to be able to check against accuracy. But we have done that since without any problems at the office, laying down ground control points, and the overall project accuracies are absolutely very tight and within survey grade accuracy deliverables. I also want to make sure that you understand too is that our third-party base stations are able to go ahead and send end-trip corrections to this aircraft. So if you have an inland receiver, you'll be able to use those in conjunction with this aircraft. The Matrice 4 Enterprise is a very good, high-quality, survey-grade mapping drone. Now, we talked about survey-grade accuracy in many videos, as well as talk about it in our online course. And this is as good of a drone as the Mavic 3 Enterprise, which has been a very good workhorse in the industry. So what is survey-grade accuracy? That is where you have a mapping project that you can expect the overall project errors to be less than 1/10 of a foot. Most likely, it's even going to be better than 1/10 of a foot. But when we have a camera like the H20T here, or the camera that's on the Matrice 30 or 30T, we cannot achieve that level of accuracy. So these cannot be used for projects that need survey grade accuracy. These are going to be very good for creating 3D models and overall orthomosaics, but that orthomosaic could very well not be completely scaled properly or as to the quality of tightness that we need for survey grade work. And that's what the Matrice 4 Enterprise is really good at. Now, let's go ahead and talk about everything as far as what we did with the flight route planning. So as we get into Pilot 2, we're noticing pretty much everything here for the flight route planning is very similar to what you see in the other Enterprise line of Pilot 2 apps. So we'll go into flight route, and I created my flight route already, but I'm going to go ahead and review and show you exactly what I did here. So for this mapping project, we are mapping 64 acres with a GSD of 1.66 that will be completed in 24 minutes, and it's going to take 1,222 pictures. And I'll show you some of the parameters that I used when I set up this flight. So the ortho GSD that we're setting is 1.65 centimeters per pixel. Now that is exactly the same as that we get out of the Mavic 3 Enterprise at the same altitude. So for us to be able to achieve a GSD of 1.65, we have to fly at 202 feet high. Comparing that to our Mavic 3, it's exactly the same. So there's no difference in framing as far as field of view or any other aspects of the camera. So you'll be able to, if you're used to using a Mavic 3 Enterprise, you can expect exactly the same performance and specs on the Matrice 4E. Now, since I only have one battery with this because we do not have individual batteries yet available, I wanted to make sure that I got everything I could in one flight. Now, that allowed us to be able to go ahead and set the speed as fast as possible. So I have, for this mission, set to 26 miles an hour. Now, to achieve that, I have to have a fairly fast shutter speed. So we're going to go ahead and set our shutter speed as fast as possible, and that's going to be dictated by the conditions that we're going to see once we're up in the air. In the advanced settings, we set the overlap to 80% frontal and 80% side overlap. I feel you can never have enough information, and that's what I like to get when I'm doing the majority of my mapping missions. So that's everything within the pre-planning of this specific project and mission. So now let's go out and fly. Obviously, we don't have the DRTK3 yet, so we have the DRTK2 hooked up to the aircraft, and we're going to go ahead and use that for RTK service. We have that over a known point, so we're all going to be good to go. So let's go ahead and get up in the air and do a nice orthomosaic for this construction site. So as I'm up in the air, obviously we have a lot of new features and functionality that's built into the Pilot 2 in real time that's on the left side of the screen. We're not going to go into the details on a lot of that stuff yet, specifically for this mission, but I can tell you one thing that I saw as an improvement is that I was able to set my shutter speed to 1/640th of a second. And now we can do individual settings for ISO, where I can set ISO to auto, and it's going to go ahead and adjust the exposure accordingly, and allow me to be able to keep the same consistent shutter speed as well as aperture. That's really, really important for mapping, and I really like to see that they have that feature on here. So as we're flying, the maximum wind speed that we're seeing on this mission is 18 miles an hour, and the drone's not missing a beat at all. And that definitely also helps when we do have RTK. It's going to be able to keep the drone on that Z-axis and the altitude very, very consistently. And as we're going along on here, we see no problems with the flight. And now when we come down and land, we were able to achieve 27 minutes of flight time down and getting on the ground by 16%. Now, normally I like to be able to get on the ground by 20%, but I wanted to try to go ahead and just edge it out just a little more to see what and where the flight time actually stood. Now, that's not too bad considering the flight conditions. It was very cold when we're flying, so it was between 25 to 28 degrees outside when we're outside flying that day. So I expect a little bit better performance when we're actually going and flying in warmer weather. So overall, I think the flight times are very equal to everything else in the majority of the Enterprise line, from the Mavic 3 Enterprise as well as the Matrice 30T. All very, very similar in flight times. So with that said, now we're going to go ahead and take the data set and input it into DJI Terra and see what the orthomosaic looks like. So we brought the data set into DJI Terra. We have 1,207 pictures loaded in, and there's all the cameras for our data set. So when I go back to the regular map and I take off the cameras, there's our orthomosaic. And our orthomosaic is scaled properly. And we switch on our regular satellite, and there we are to match it up. And this project would give us very high quality mapping deliverables. The last thing I want to cover in this video is, let's say your mapping project is too large for one battery. How long would it take you to be able to change batteries and get up, back, and running? Now, from the time that we did the sequence on the battery to turn on the aircraft, before it actually recognized and actually was ready to go up and back and fly, we timed that in 12 seconds. That is far better than the Mavic 3 Enterprise. So those are the results that we were able to get. Now, stay tuned, because for our next test that we're going to do with the Matrice 4 Enterprise, we're going to do a zoom comparison test for the Matrice 4, obviously, against the Mavic 3 Enterprise, as well as the Matrice 30 and the Matrice 350 with the H20 and the new H30T, and we'll be able to show and compare all of these. Now for that test, what we're going to do, like we always do, is use a benchmark to see how far away we can read a license plate with each of these cameras and aircrafts. So stay tuned. Now, if you have any other questions about the Matrice 4 Enterprise or anything else that you want to ask, please feel free, give us a call, put them down in the comment section below, and until next time, we'll talk to you soon.